Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fusion Development 101, Professional Developer Essentials. My name is Matt Soka. I'm a Senior Cloud Development at Microsoft, and Fusion Development is amazing. And as you might have heard Satya Nadella yesterday during the keynote talk about Fusion Development, well, today, me and my colleague, Justin Yu, are going to dive in a little bit deeper what Fusion Development is and what it means to a professional developer or like a .NET developer, and how we as professional developers can help out in the Fusion development team process and help out our business professional colleagues create Power Apps from the back-end perspective. Justin, good morning.
Hello.
How are you?
Hello. Hi, Matt. Hello, everyone. This is Justin, Senior Cloud Advocate at Microsoft. So how are you today, Matt?
Oh, Justin, I'm doing great. The sun is shining. Build is going on. It's the favorite time of year. And Justin, it's like, what, 5 in the morning by you?
Yeah, it's 5 in the morning. And I can't see outside, actually. So it's dark outside. So, I just got up earlier. And I got up earlier with my coffee. So yeah, I'm now fully energized now.
Good. Well, I've been drinking coffee and eating donuts for you all day, just so you know, so I can be fully energized too.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's get going here. So in the whole Fusion development world, or professional developer essentials for Fusion development, what Justin and I have done, along with some of our colleagues, is we created a learning path. And today we have one module of that learning path. Part of that learning path is that we have 5 different modules of it, taking all the way from introducing what Fusion development is, all the way through using web APIs and discovering those as part of a whole holistic module. And so today we're going to be talking about that last module, discovering and using web APIs with Power Apps, or how we can actually take a web API, put it in Azure API management, and use it within a Power App. So Justin, want to tell us a little bit more about what we're actually going to be talking about today?
Sure. So what we are working through the Learn module today is this one. So aka.ms/CON063. So I would encourage all of you to watch our session together. But I'd like to ask you to complete this module right after this session. So our learning objective is like this. So here we are going to create a custom connector using Azure API management. And we are going to create a custom connector using an open API document. And finally, we are going to use a custom connector in a Power Apps app to call the web API. So Matt, would you please to give some spoiler for us to the audience for what we are going to do today?
Oh, absolutely. And so what we have here is initially we're going to create a web API, right? We can't create anything to talk to the backend without having a web API. And so this is a quick overview of how we're going to do it, is that we're going to do the web API, we're going to put some Swagger tooling together, and we're going to publish it. We're going to publish it out to Azure real quickly here, and we're going to pick up Azure App Service, and then we're going to put it out to Azure API Management. Now, we're going through this all super quickly here, and that's because we're not going to actually do it in this Learn module, but it's like as a prerequisite. All right, so we pushed it out to Azure API Management. Now then we take it, now we export it. Now this is where the coolness starts. This is what we're doing here in this module, is that we're just going to go export it into Azure API Power Apps. We have it in Power Apps now, and we're going to use it. That was one button click. We got it. Now all we have to do is, there it is. We had it and we used it. So 5 seconds, and that is what we're going to be doing today. All right, so Justin, this is live and interactive, and this is what's so great about these Learn Live sessions, that please say hi and ask questions in the chat. I know we have people from all over the world. We have Dallas, we have London, we have South Carolina, I think even Jacksonville. And so, Justin, what do you think? Should we get going?
Yeah. So I'm fully excited to show what we are going to do throughout this session. So let's keep doing.
All right. So to start off with, people might be wondering, all right, so what are Fusion development? And just to give a real quick introduction to it. So Fusion development teams really are a means to create better applications faster. And so what this means is that we're going to have business and IT work together in a unique way. And that unique way is that the business teams are going to actually create a front end of the applications using Power Apps. And the IT teams, our software developers, are going to be creating the applications or be creating a backend of the applications using the high code technologies that we're used to, like ASP.NET Core web APIs, and deploying those to app service and wrapping them in Azure API management, and then creating a connector so our business experts can use those backends in their Power Apps. So what this does, it creates a way for everybody to become super productive, super quickly, and everybody gets to stay at home and work with their technologies that they're most comfortable in. And so what we're going to talk about today is that while you might be developing a Power App, you might find out that you're going to have to use a web API created by what we call a high code or a professional developer. And we're going to use those terms interchangeably here. And how can you do it? How can you as a high code developer provide a way for a Power Apps person or a citizen developer to use that API within a Power App to really help that Fusion development team out? And so one of the way would be with a custom connector. And Justin, why don't you fill us in on what custom connectors are all about?
Sure. So before talking about our custom connector, so Matt just says talking about the Fusion team. So we need to aware about the Fusion, what the Fusion team is. So Gartner says 84% of organizations have at least one Fusion team. So which means we are working together as a cross-functional team to deliver same product and services. So to enable to work together as a Fusion team, within the professional development environment, providing this custom connector would be very super powerful. So let's get into the custom connector things. So we got the web API to fetch the list of warehouse locations. So how can you get the list from Power Apps? So this is the magic. As we said, it's a custom connector. So actually, Microsoft provides hundreds of custom connectors to connect Power Apps to Microsoft and non-Microsoft services. So however, like this module in Van Arcel's inventory management system, you may want to communicate with your web APIs. But unfortunately, there's no connector for it by Microsoft. So in this case, custom connectors comes to the rescue. So you create your own connector with your web APIs hosted in Azure API management. And Power Apps can invoke the web APIs through custom connector.
Okay, so let's just get this straight a little bit here, Justin. So as a Power App developer, I can, out of the box, is it true that I can go out and talk to like Exchange or like Outlook based services or like Microsoft Graph? That just works right out of the box. I don't have to do anything special for that. Is that right?
No, yeah, that's correct.
Okay. But for like when I want to create my own web APIs, in order to do anything with that, I have to do something special. And that's something special is the custom connector.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. So that's what we're really talking about here today, is really creating that custom connector to make our web API backends work with Power Apps. All right. So the one cool thing that we're going to be doing with that custom connector is that we're going to be putting it into Azure API management. And so let's just take a second and talk about what Azure API management is. You can think of it as a big admin portal for your web APIs. Now, let's say your business has a ton of web APIs, hundreds, even thousands. And so it could be really hard to manage them. And that's where Azure API management comes in. Let's even think that like, sir, some of the APIs you want to have rate limited. So you only want to have like, one particular client, only call them like 25 times an hour, or you want to have authentication behind it, or you just want to have routing and or like a server-based farm, load balancing with it, Azure API management can provide all that and more. So that's what Azure API management is. It's really a nice way to have your complex system. It's a portal over the top of that for your APIs. And so it's an API management system, right? And so that's what we're going to be doing with our first one, is that we're going to be deploying a API into app service and then putting that behind Azure API management. So Justin, I know you're a big fan of Azure API management, and
Yes.
so let's put a custom connector then into it. What do we have to do here?
Sure. So Azure API management has a feature that create a custom connector directly from it. So as you can see on the screen, as long as you got the Power Apps license, you can export the custom connector to your Power Apps environment directly from Azure API management. Then after exporting the custom connector, you can see it on your Power Apps Studio.
So
yeah.
What's cool, Justin, is I just found out about this, is that there's this new Power Apps license, I believe it's called the Power Apps Developer license.
Yes,
is that
correct.
It lets you do this without having the other Power Apps license. Like anybody can sign up for it, and then you can actually create this custom connector with the Power Apps Developer license, which is super neat. So
that's right.
Cool. All right. So this is all right from this screen right here is a direct screenshot from Azure API Management, and you can just create the API or the custom connector right from here. Okay.
So
all right.
let me introduce the differences between the connector and connection. So the Matt and I keep saying the term, the connector and connection here. So we need to know about the differences between them. So while you are building a custom connector, you may have a connection, the term connection. So actually, the custom connector itself is a wrapper around the web API. So it allows Power Apps to communicate the web API because it knows where the web API is located, what sort of operations that web API is doing. But the custom connector itself does nothing unless you create a connection for it. So as I said, connector knows where the web API is located and what the operation look like. And connection knows the credentials and has a reference to the connector that facilitate communication with the web API.
Okay. So I love how you said that custom connector doesn't do anything without the connection.
That's right.
Okay. So the connector is just a wrapper around the web API, and the connection connects it. It's your credentials. It's your username and password essentially to make it. Okay. So the connector has the wrapper and the connection has the keys, just like the diagram shows. Okay, cool.
Yep.
And that's actually really important to know. I mean, connector and connection sound a lot alike, but they are two different and two very important details. Okay. Very cool. Well, Justin, what do you think we should do? A demo?
Yep. So let's create a custom connector directly from the API management. So first of all, we are going to download the sample application for this exercise, deploy the application to Azure. Then we are going to start from there. And as Matt said already, for this exercise, you need Power Apps license. So if you don't have it, don't worry. So the new Power Apps developer program has been introduced yesterday at Build, so which is really good. Sounds good, Matt?
Let's do it.
Yep, let's do it. So yeah, so I am in the learning module here. So in this screen, so there is a link under there, download the web API files from GitHub. In here, create that. Then there is the GitHub repository. Go to the download button. Then you will be able to download the simple artifact file. So we are going to start from there. So download that artifact file to your local machine. Then open that file into So open the file, then you will be able to see a bunch of files. But don't worry, we are not going to use all of them. Just to use the PowerShell script here. So open the PowerShell console and go into the directory. And before doing that, we need to log on the Azure through Azure CLI. So once you logged in, then you will be able to run this PowerShell. But remember, that PowerShell script is downloaded from the internet. So when you see that, you will be asked to choose run or not. So yeah, this time just run the PowerShell script. Then it will provision all the Azure resources, then deploy the web API application, then integrate that web API application into Azure API management. So once everything is done, yeah, you are good to go. Now, what we are going to do is check that the deployed application onto Azure, then going to the API management side. Now, so go to the subscription, and we need to get the subscription key for the further the authentication, right? So we copied that the API key here. Then we will be able to see the one API which we just deployed, and click the 3-dot button there and click the export, and you will be able to see that Power Apps and Power Automate tile to export the custom connector, and choose the right environment on your Power Apps, then give the custom connector name. So this time we are going to use inventory management build. So yeah, that's it. And click the export button, and that's all about it. So we got that the custom connector. To go into the Power Apps Studio, then go into the custom connector section. Then there will be a bunch of other custom connectors, but you can find our custom connector by just searching the inventory. Then you will be able to see that inventory management build. Then use that the subscription key to create the connection. So put that subscription key into there and click the create button. Then you are good to go. You just create the connection for it. Right? So find put the search button here, search your inventory management here, then you will be able to see the connection. So we have custom connector, we have connection, and you are all good to go. So this is all about it.
That's really cool. I mean, it's real super easy too, and really fast to do. I mean, that just went really quick. Not a lot of work. And one thing I wanted to point out though, Justin, is that the code and everything that you went through is a part of the Learn module. And like you already wrote that whole web API that we're using, and so we don't have to actually write it. You just have to deploy it. So you did you did a lot of hard work for us already. So there is a question from the Varun. So do citizen developers have the potential to use the step or two beyond their standard set of responsibilities, or is it important to adhere to the role descriptions shown earlier? So that's the question. I would say we shouldn't look at it as extending a step or two beyond the role of traditional responsibilities, but rather evolving, of empowering what citizen developers are able to do. And so like before, we're a citizen developer, so in this example, what we're building out throughout this Learn module is Maria is an inventory specialist, and she needs to keep track of parts in a warehouse. So as before, like she might have to just use a spreadsheet, but now with Power Apps, she's going to be empowered to use an application that either runs on her phone or on the web or on the desktop to do work. So it's not like she's stepping outside of her role to do something, but rather she's more empowered to do her job and do it better. She's still working with IT in the back end to provide, whether she has to interface with doing ordering or interfacing with like a SQL Server database or something on the back end. So she's still there doing that, but now she's actually be able to do her job faster, and she can actually create an app that does exactly what she needs to as well. So, Justin, what's your feeling with that question?
Yeah. So the concept of citizen developers and the Fusion team is actually those experts in their domain, like domain experts and professional developers and IT pros. They don't have to leave their own domain. They just keep doing what they are doing. But the Power Apps, Power Platforms empower what they are doing. So which is what Matt exactly said.
Yeah, and I love that question. So yeah, please definitely keep the questions coming. And like anything you see during the demos, if you have a question about or anything at all, yeah. So please keep them coming on through. So, all right.
Sure.
Okay. So let's then jump to a knowledge check, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, Justin, what is the least relevant while creating a custom connector from Azure API management?
Right. So the question is the least relevant. Okay. So let's read the option A. Each API in Azure API management has the export menu to create a custom connector. Is that what I just did before? I think so.
Yeah. All right. And then the second option here could be Azure API management offers the feature for the direct creation of a custom connector for Power Apps. All right.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then
the third option is to use the custom connector within Power Apps. You don't need to create connection for it. Okay.
Okay.
What do you
So
think?
let's all right. So let's see. For answer A, Justin, you're right. You did that before. So I know that's relevant. That's totally relevant. So that cannot be the answer, right? So
wow.
B.
So answer goes, so we got the 9 votes here. So and right, 13 votes.
Yep. And so C must be right? So to use a custom connector with Power Apps, you don't need, of course you need to create a connection for it because that's the key. The connection's the key to use the connector.
That's right. So remember the demo of the last part of the video. I create a connection to connect to the connector.
Right. Yep. And as you said before during one of the slides, is that the connector is not any good without the connection. The connection's a password and the keys to get to the resources that the connector wraps.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right. So next up is that we're going to talk a little bit about Open API and why you should use it or why you might want to use it. And so what is Open API? So Open API itself is a standard of describing a web API. And what's neat about it is that it's both readable by humans and also by machines. And so you can actually take an Open API document and you could read it, print it out and read it in front of you and know what's going on with the web API below it. You could understand about what's going to happen with it. Whereas with a machine can actually take that same document and be able to generate something from it as well. It would know it as well. And so once you do have an Open API document that describes a web API, you can actually take that and import it into Power Apps itself and to create a custom connector from that. So what's really neat is that essentially what we're going to do, you can take an Open API document and create a custom connector from it without having to use Azure API management. You could totally use Azure API management if you wanted, but in this scenario, you do not have to, which is pretty neat.
Right. So why would we use a custom Open API document for the custom connector? So there are many advantages of using OpenAPI document for your custom connector creation. So, but the following benefits are the most crucial for the citizen developers perspective. So nowadays, professional developers include OpenAPI document generation capabilities in their web API application. So it means you can download, as a citizen developer, you can download the OpenAPI document directly from the application and create a custom connector from it. So by doing so, you remove dependencies on professional development team. Also, as long as you have the OpenAPI document accessible, you can always create the custom connector whenever possible. And Matt here, David asked another question. So the question was, how do you propose to handle dev, test, prod environment with how you exported and consume the API with the custom connector? Because there is currently tied to a specific developer environment.
Okay. So are we talking with API management or with the Open API document, or both?
I think it's both. It's much about the previous the module, previous session about the creating a custom connector side.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So I guess what I would do with that is that it is tied initially to a specific development deployment, and so what I would do is that you can actually have environment variables set. Is that correct, Justin? Is that I could actually have go through like a variable set for, not a variable, environment set for production, an environment set for QA, and an environment set for development, and then kind of go through it that way, where folks who actually want to use my app then in production are going to be using essentially an entire different URL to use it. Would that be the correct way I'd be doing it then, Justin?
I think that's one good approach. And another approach could be, so Power Apps also has a different environment. So you can have dev environment, you can have test, you can have product environment, the production environment. So you can create custom connector for each one. And it's more about the DevOps related questions. So I think this is beyond what we are going to cover for now. But yeah, as I can say, you can follow what Matt suggested, and you can also follow you can separate the custom connector within different environments and use that custom connector according to your the Power Apps application on the specific environment.
That's a great question. And DevOps with Power Apps and this whole Fusion development thing is actually something that we are going to cover in a future Learn module that we are about to write. So, all right. So Justin here, can you give us a little explanation about the differences, the pros and cons, and what the differences are between using Azure API management and an Open API document?
Sure. So from the custom connector perspective, what are the differences between the Azure API management and Open API document? So let's briefly compare to each other. So API management contains the centralized set of different APIs. Therefore, you can create a custom connector from one of them. On the other hand, Open API document belongs to one specific API application. So you can create a custom connector only from that. And API management can handle complex API structure because it deals with different APIs. Again, Open API enabled API application has a relatively simple structure. And through API management, we can put extra security on top of what the Open API document requires. Also, we can handle each API usage through API management, while Open API document doesn't have it. And for those extra capability on API management side, definitely we need to pay extra cost for the API management. And finally, for the complexity level, API management is relatively higher. Open API document is relatively lower.
Right? Okay. So really, what it comes comes down to is an open API document is a nice way to get going. It might be a nice simple way to get going, but once you evolve beyond that, it sounds like you kind of graduate into Azure API management when you start having more of a complex system layout.
That's right. That's right.
It gives you a lot of extra benefits to help along with that. Okay. So how about I show a little demo then about creating a custom connector from an open API document. And this is really kind of similar to what you went through before, Justin, in that we were doing both the creating the connector and then the connection, except we're not going to use Azure API management from this. All right. So the first thing I want to show here is actually the API management or the open API document itself. Now, as I said before, it is human readable. So it's just JSON. And if you go through here, you can see that it's called inventory management. And as I scroll down here, you can see that it needs an API header key, and it's going to be then what the name of the header key is. And then right here is what our operations is going to be. It's going to be located at /API/warehouse locations. And it's going to return a response of 200. And it produces plain text, or JSON. And it's pretty straightforward here that when you look at it, you know what's going to happen. And when a machine brings that in, it's just bringing in JSON. It'll be able to parse it real easily. So it also knows it's going to happen. So that's all pretty neat. So that's what an open API document looks like. So let's bring it in. So I have Power Apps Maker open here. And so then I go down to custom connectors itself. And while I let it spin up, I want to go over here then and create a new one from an open API file. So I'm going to go ahead, give it a name. And as I'm typing that in, once I finish that, I'm going to go and select my file that I just showed off here. Bring that in, hit continue, and then it'll spin here. And you see, it gives me this a little background where it's just general info, and I can actually say create the connector. So this is the connector here. And it just, again, just so I can change the background color so I can find it easier or whatnot. Hit close, and you can see with all my various connectors in the array, much like you did just before, Justin, I searched for it. So I see inventory management created by me. Now I'm going to go ahead and create the connection for it. Now this one relies on an API key, like I highlighted before when we were looking through the JSON itself. So I'll go through and enter that, hit create, and we said it was adding the connection. Cool. So now I'm going to go all the way down here and try to find it. And there's a lot of connections here in the tenant I happen to be using. Keep on scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. And finally, we will get to it right here. All right, it would have been better if I just searched for it, but here it is. And here it is, my connection. And what's cool about here in Power Apps Maker, I can actually see if there's anything using it. And there's no apps or no flows currently using it. But that's how you go through and create a connector and a connection from just an open API document. Pretty neat. So, all right. So if please,
awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And please feel free to send us any questions you had on the demo. Otherwise, Justin, how about another knowledge check?
Sure, let's go. So we just created custom connector from both ways, API management and the open API document side. So we keep saying connector and connection. So this is about the connection side. So, and connector side, I mean. So there are several ways to create a custom connector for Power Apps. So what is not the way to create a custom connector?
Okay. So let's read through these three options. What is not the way to create it? Well, can we not export it from Azure API management? All right. Well,
okay. So can we not import an open API file to create a custom connector?
Okay. How about C? Can we not import a WSDL file or a web service definition language file? That what WSDL stands for, Justin?
I think so.
Are you as old as I am?
A very, very old-fashioned way.
Yep. Yep. So can we not import a WSDL file? That sounds about right to me. And
yeah. So our audience is 100% chose the option C, which is really good.
yes. And so, yeah, WSDL files are the old-fashioned way that you would import a web service definition into an application. And gosh, I can't remember the last time I used one of those. Justin, do you remember using one of those a long time ago?
It's quite a long time ago. Long time ago.
Yep. Yep. And open API files are much, much nicer. They're a lot easier to understand. All right.
So let's quickly move on to the next one. So we have created a custom connector in both ways. But, once we create the custom connector, but we need to make sure whether that custom connector works as expected. So within the Power Apps Studio, we can test the custom connector. So before the test, we had already created a connection that I mentioned earlier and test API operations. So once you finish testing, you are good to go with custom connector in Power Apps. So Matt, can I do the run the demo now?
Yeah, sure. Let's go ahead.
Sure.
And we're just
Let's do this demo again for the custom connector testing. So once you complete this demo, you will be able to test your custom connector within the Power Apps Studio. So let's go into that. So we are on the inventory management build connector. Then click the edit button here, and you will be able to see the tabs 1, 2, 3, and 4, and click the test in here, and you will be able to see the connections we have already created. So use that connector now, and this API only has one operations. Yeah. So we just click the test operation button, and you will be able to see the result, which is returning the right result or in the wrong result for now. So this time it returns 200 HTTP status code, which is okay, which means that OpenAPI, that custom connector works as expected. But sometimes the API application itself is downtime or something like that, then you will be able to see these kind of error messages. It can be a 4.3 error, it can be a 5 something error or something like that. So once you see this screen, then if you are a professional developer, you can fix that by yourself. If you are citizen developers, you can ask the professional developers to mitigate this error.
Cool. So, I mean, I could go through and test this connector from either. Well, I'm doing this within the Power Apps Studio here, so it doesn't matter if I'm a citizen developer or a professional developer. I have the ability to test it.
That's right.
No matter what. Oh, that's cool. All right. Well, demo. So we know what's next, then, Justin.
Sure. So could you ask the question, Matt?
Sure. Absolutely. So when we're discussing the differences between a connector and a connection, and it's very, very important that we know which is not correct. So which of these is not correct between the differences of a connector and a connection?
So the option A says a connector has information about what the APIs look like.
Okay. And then B would be a connector has information about how to communicate with the APIs.
Okay. So the option C is a connector knows the connection details to the APIs, like authentication details.
Okay. And then D is a connection knows the connection details, how to connect to the APIs, including the authentication details.
Wow.
Okay.
So looks very similar between option C and D.
Yeah. Yeah.
It can be tricky.
All right. So, but which one is not correct? All right. So,
Which one is not correct?
all right. So, well, we know A sounds like it's correct though, right, Justin? That must be correct. A connector has the info about what the APIs look like. So that's A is correct. And then
B is also correct. And the audiences says around half of audiences chose option C. I think what is the answer, Matt?
C is the one that is not correct. So the reason why is a connector knows what the operation is, but it doesn't know how to connect to the operation. A connector wraps it.
That's right.
The connection details, the authentication, that's a connection. And so these they're confusing because they sound so much alike. Connector wraps, connection has the keys and unlocks. Authentication's connection, connector is the wrapper for the details.
That's
so
right.
C is the correct answer here.
Okay. Yeah, make sure the connector lets you know where the API is, and connection lets you know what the authentication details is. Okay, so that's the differences.
Yep, and it's really important to understand because they sound alike, but they work together, but they do two very different things. Okay. So this is one of my favorite parts, Justin, because now we are going in and we are going to actually finally use our custom connector within a Power Apps Canvas app. So we're coming full circle here. Yep. And so this is super cool, is that we're going to actually take the web API that we created, that we deployed over into Azure API management, created that custom connector for, created the connection to the connector for, bring it into Power Apps, and then create an app and get it and list out all our warehouses. All our hard work is going to pay off in seeing our warehouses on an app. So how about we go ahead and do this?
Yeah, let's do the demo.
All right. So really what we're going to do is we're just going to create a Canvas app here and plug it all in, plug everything in together. Okay. So first thing I want to do is I'm just going to go create a new Canvas app from blank here in Power Apps Maker, and I'm just going to give it a name, call it Inventory Manager, and I want to create it from a phone format, just my own personal preference here. And so that's going to spin everything up, and then so when it's kind of all ready, you see I just have a blank screen. All right, everything looks great, but I'm going to go over here on the left-hand side and click the little database looking thing, and it brings up, well, there is no app or no data in my app yet. Well, if I go and say, well, I'm going to add data, you can see here that there is a little drop down that says connectors. Well, that's the thing I'm after, right? And so I'm going to type in inventory management. And so there's a bunch of different ones that we created while we were playing around here, but select the one that I want, and it's called inventory management. So what I'm going to go through then, now that's added to my app now. The inventory management connector is a part of my app. I can treat it now just like a database. I mean, I have access to its data. So let's go get it at its data. So I'm going to add a button to the screen here. And now in the on select, essentially the click method of the button, I'm going to go through and then enter a formula for it. Now it's going to call clear collect warehouses, and then here's something cool. I'm going to just say inventory management get API warehouse locations. Now, I come from a .NET background, and I am so used to a couple different things here. One, this is Justin, isn't this so cool that warehouses here, I didn't define this. I didn't declare this variable, this collection anywhere. I just have it. Just by typing it in, it's declared for me.
Yeah. And that's because the custom connector let us know what the method would look like.
Yeah. and the IntelliSense or the stuff that pops up, the suggestions for me, it works. I mean, it really is all amazing. And this is this is a web interface to it as well. So this isn't a application I have installed on my machine that I'm building this in. I'm building this through the web itself. All right, so I have the button on the screen, which is going to go in and get me my thing. But next up, I'm going to go through and add essentially a list. And what I did with the list is I said, I want you to be powered by the warehouses collection on the back end. And then next, I'm going to go change the layout here. So all I'm going to say is I want just to display a string of title. And then next, we're going to go through here and I'm going to click on the button. One thing though, I clicked on the button within essentially the IDE, the integrated development environment, and it went out and it called my connector. It brought back the data from my API all in one. I'm still in design mode, Justin. I haven't started debugging the app yet, but it still works. It's like I'm debugging it, but not debugging it, isn't it? That's pretty cool. And so now then what I can go through is I can actually scroll through, see all of my my warehouse locations that are returned from it. And right here, if I click the little play button, I can actually see it run in a debug mode itself. So really cool stuff. Just seeing how everything instantly binds within Power Apps. Power Apps itself is a very powerful framework, and that's really cool stuff. So that's all there was to actually take. Once we created the connector, added the connection to it, essentially all we did was add it to our application, called out that get warehouse locations API on it, tied it to a button, and then the collection that it populated automatically, just assign that to a list, and there we go. That's all there was to it.
Yeah, that's right. So the beauty of this creating custom connector, integrate custom connector within the Power Apps, Matt, is that as a citizen developer, they don't have to worry about how the custom connector works. They just use it by suggesting the autocomplete feature within the Power App. So is it really cool?
Yeah. I mean, all you have to do is make sure you name your method good, like get warehouse locations, and then it's there. You just know what to use. So, and then Justin, did you see what they announced that build yesterday with where you just have to type in something that you want to have happen in Power Apps, and it automatically builds the function for you?
I was personally very surprised. Oh, okay. So AI assisted coding feature. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Wow.
So pretty
soon. Really cool.
Yeah. We won't even have to worry about remembering anything. We'll just have to tell the machine what we want it to do. Talk to it and it'll do it for us. But yeah, I'm super excited to start messing around with that eventually. But all right, very neat. So what we're going to go here then is a summary of what we did and what we came from. So Power Apps itself, out of the box, it offers hundreds of connectors, whether you want to connect to things like the Microsoft Graph, or you want to send emails, or you want to add to-do apps, or even third-party applications like Justin, what are some third-party applications? I'm drawing a blank now that you can add to Power Apps.
Like Salesforce, for example.
Oh, yeah, Salesforce. Yeah. That'd be a great example. So those are already all out there and built in that you can bring in and add, but you might want to do some more of yourself, some very customized ones for your business. And that's where these ones that we just showed off now, these custom connectors can do that. And you can create them in two different ways. So you can, one, use API management, where that's going to be a little more, it's going to give you a lot of management features for it, and it's for maybe more complex situations. Or you can create it going through an open API document where it just gives you the JSON string or a JSON document, essentially, that's readable both by humans and by machines. And it's a little more flexible in that you have the document and then you just point to where the document resides, and then you kind of go off and running there.
Mm-hmm. Right. So again, we walked through this Learn module today. So I wonder, how did you like it? So we hope you enjoyed this session. So I would strongly encourage you to complete this module right after this session. So see the link here, aka.ms/con063, which is discover and use web APIs with Power Apps. So run this module after this session so that you don't miss anything learned from this session today.
And
yeah.
Yes, and please let us know. Hit us up on Twitter, Justin or myself, and let us know what you think. Ask any questions. We're glad to help. And please do run through the module.
Yep. And this is it today. So thank you all for joining us today at this Learn live session at Build. But we would say that's not all. So if you enjoyed this session today, we hope you come back for Learn Live every week. So each episode will cover Learn module and work with experts like us to cover the Learn contents in depth with live Q&A. So actually, with over 2,000 topics in Microsoft Learn, we will covering all manners of things going forward. Cool. So Learn Live
Oh, let's say, Justin, if you have time, we have a couple questions that we could take right now if you want.
Oh yeah, sure.
And the first one is from Marco, and Marco's wondering, why should I use a custom connector instead of calling the API directly with an HTTP action in Power Automate?
That's a very good question, actually. So you can, if you like, you can directly call the API through HTTP action in Power Automate. But things to remember that if you are a citizen developer and you have little knowledge about how HTTP calls working, right? They don't have, and in that case, it's kind of the HTTP call, API call is kind of lower level. They don't have to know that. Instead, if you are wrapping that HTTP API with a custom connector, then as say I am a citizen developer, I don't have to know all the things behind the scene. So you simply just call the custom connector. That's all about it.
Right. So the custom connector is kind of abstracting away any of the knowledge that you might have to do to put into the into the Power Automate action, where you would have to know the web API address and all that other stuff. Yep. Custom connector kind of just takes that away, where you're just dragging it in. So, sure. But you could do both.
Yeah.
So another question from Mitchell comes in is, what are some of the workarounds for users not knowing the API key when they're creating the connection? What if they just want to authenticate against Azure Active Directory?
Oh, yeah, that's another good question. OpenAPI document, we are using OpenAPI document version 2, which is the Swagger definition. And it supports both the putting the API key within the header, or we can use an OAuth authentication flow into there. So we can use the Azure AD for the connector to the connection. But things to remember is the Azure AD OAuth flow is specifically bound to the specific person. So that connection is particularly only for you, not for other one else. Unless that the OAuth flows goes into use a different the service principal or something like that. But from the citizen developer perspective, they tend to use their own authentication details through the Azure Active Directory. That's the thing.
Okay. And then Another question, it's not 100% related to what we talked about other than the fact that it is connectors, is that are there any connectors out there for social platform integration, such as like WhatsApp, Facebook, or Telegram? I don't know offhand, but do you know, Justin? Have you used any of those?
That's a really good question. So it depends on how they provide us with into the connector. So there is a marketplace for the third parties to put their custom connector onto there or connector onto there. Facebook used to have Microsoft used to provide the Facebook the connector for it, but due to the recent change on the Facebook authentication styles, so it's now deprecated, but it's open source now. And I think Twitter has it, and Google has it, but I'm not for sure. I think WhatsApp is the Facebook the family, so I think WhatsApp might be different. And yeah, but as we said, the third-party companies can put their custom connector to the marketplace. And actually, remember that yesterday, within the keynote, the third-party custom connector certification, the process gets much easier through the GitHub, the PR or something like that. So yeah, if you are working with those kind of social media, then you want to contribute those custom connector, then use that marketplace for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yep. All right. So, Justin, yeah, so you know what else is coming up, Justin? I think not next week, but the week after, that we have a bunch of Learn Live sessions on identity, which kind of touches on what we talked about with our Active Directory before. And so that's always interesting. Active Directory B2C, but it always has a place near and dear to my heart. That's something I'm definitely going to check out. Kind of give you a deep dive into what identity is with Active Directory. And those are some tough topics to get into. So definitely worth checking out. And to give ourselves a plug, Justin, in July, you and I are also doing another session on this very topic as well. So check us out in July too. So yeah, very good.
Yeah, identity is one of the parts that I'm personally challenging. So it's really complicating. So there are lots of different cases. So I think the next Learn Live session would be really valuable for me as well.
Yep. These are great. Yes.
Yeah. And at this time, you will be able to see some sort of survey on your screen. So we'd like to hear your feedback so that we can improve the next time. So if you enjoyed this session, please go into the survey and put any comments on there.
Absolutely. And with that, thank you, Justin. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Really appreciate it. I hope you learned a lot about Fusion development and custom connectors and connecting your web APIs over into Power Apps. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone. See you next time.